As the Virtual Group Network and PGRL's premier series welcomes you to the Racy McRace Race Phoenix 150 presented by Octane 93 live here from the virtual Phoenix Raceway. I'm Austin Balke here with J.R. Shepard in the booth. Our pit road reporter is Kenny Kibbe, and the man in the production trailer is Trevor Greenfield. You can see here Phoenix Raceway, Phoenix, Arizona, 79 degrees Fahrenheit, 54% humidity, partly cloudy skies, 2-mile-an-hour winds. This is a fantastic venue, JR.
Absolutely is, Austin. It's one of those driver tracks. So this is a place where you want to go as a driver. I think your talent's going to overcome some of the lacking of the car itself and the adversities that they may experience tonight, depending on how the setup runs. So it's just a great place to come if you know that you want to get up on that wheel and race.
For sure. We'll go ahead and throw it to Kenny Kibbe with some of our race notes here.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me here. So in the Racy McRace Race Phoenix 150 tonight, it's a 150-lap race. It's a half distance of the Cup race in real life. Each team will have a tire limit of 7 sets of tires. They'll all start out with 75% of their fuel load, so expect a few pit stops tonight with a pit window of 64 to 66 laps in a 150-lap race. Expect it to be at least a 2-stopper. And also some rules there, damage is on with one fast repair, and they invert the field results of last week. So whoever finished last week, well, they'll start on the pole this week. There's no actual qualifying. The leader will have their lane choice every start and restart, and there's 2 drop weeks which may come into play with drivers kind of having results all over the place in the first few races. Consistency will be key, but there are drop weeks. But JR, is there some more points of interest worth noting?
Absolutely, Kenny. So this is one of those tracks, like I said, it's a driver's track, but tire wear is going to come into play if we get some longer runs. So we start to get into the 20, 25 lap runs, you're going to start to see the tires fall off quite a bit. And if that comes into play, we get a good long run where they have to make green flag pit stops. Guys could do the undercut and be able to gain a lot of positions. So that's something that we're going to have to pay attention to. Also going to have to pay attention to the drivers that are able to save those tires. They may not be up front early, but they'll get there at the end of each run. Also, shifting could come into play. So I don't think that's going to be a huge deal when you're by yourself, but definitely when you're racing side by side with somebody, you'll definitely see some guys downshift to try to get that advantage.
One thing, though, we'll shift our interest to right now is the winner of the Mahan Speed Laboratories You Finished Last Pole Award. We're here with the pole winner this week, Fred Thompson. Hey, Fred, you got a copy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I got you loud and clear. Fred, we see you've won the pole for this week. That, of course, means you basically got the invert by finishing last in the previous week. Anything you want to try to do this week to try and reverse your fortunes?
Yeah, first off, I'd like to finish the race. So they're going to see me pull sharp to the left when we start so I don't wreck the whole field. And I'm going to try to catch up with everybody.
For sure, Fred. Before we let you go to the race, is there anyone you want to thank real quickly before hopefully we can see you later tonight in the interview booth?
I just appreciate my teammates and everybody that gives me a chance to do this. I'm 76 years old, so I'm just having fun and trying to enjoy it.
For sure. Well, Fred, thank you so much for your time. Best of luck in the race.
Appreciate it.
That was Fred Thompson, your Mahan Speed Laboratories You Finished Last Pole Award winner. So he'll be starting up front from the inversion of last week's results. So if you won last weekend, you're, of course, going to start last here tonight. Of course, there are a couple of drivers starting behind the winner last week from Las Vegas, basically drivers that didn't show up last week so they don't, kill the invert and get the start up front. But we will go through your qualifying results here. You can see, like we mentioned, Fred Thompson starting in pole position. Isaiah Dupre to his outside. John Perkins lines up in 3rd position with Kevin Bartelt in 4th. Danny Gutierrez starts 5th with Steve Herring in 6th. Jason Franks lines up in 7th with Travis McQuistion in 8th. Django Matthews and John Wilco round out your top 10. Norm Pelletier starts in 11th with Don Runkle Jr. in 12th. Starting in 13th is Jeff Gilliam with Chad Mikas in 14th. Rich Chetty lines up in 15th with James Grahula to his outside. Milka Krobuck lines up in 17th with Chris Lanini in 18th. Mark Cohen lines up 19th with Michael Whiting rounding out the top 20. JR?
Yeah, starting 21st tonight will be Thomas George. Alongside him in 22nd is Michael Stroll. 23rd is Brian Yazik. 24th, Mike Rasmus. 25th, Scott Eckridge. Jeff Ward, a winner from this season, also along with Scott Eckridge, will start 26th. Woody Mahan is 27th. Drew Carroll, 28th tonight. Rick Thompson starting 29th. Next row, Tyler Graff will be starting in the 30th position. Alongside him will be Jonathan Cadell. Rhett McBride will start 32nd. Kyle Farlarski will start 33rd tonight. Pete Baskins 34th. 35th is Kevin Stone. 36th is Joe Hassert. 37th, Mark Herzog. 38th will be Ricky Harden. 39th, Adam Blattle. And in our last row here, we got 40th placed Howard Wildrick, and 41st will be Joe Alberico.
And perfect timing there as we finish going through the qualifying order. Fred Thompson puts his foot on the loud pedal, quickly gets back off of it though to let the rest of the drivers faster than him around the outside. One driver sideways into the wall, really sideways, involving Kevin Bartelt. A couple more drivers. First caution comes out here immediately.
Yeah, guys, that was quite the pileup. Looked like John Perkins, who's on the screen now, just went in way too hot in turn 1, slid up the track up in front of the 26 car of Kevin Bartelt, and it just stacked up behind him, and a bunch of drivers packed up. And you know, JR, that's one thing we actually see quite often here at Phoenix is guys over driving turn 1. And we talked before the show about how on cold tires especially, you can't have a loose condition on the entry of these corners.
Yeah, absolutely, Kenny. So that's one thing that's very common, trying to judge your speed on the starts and restarts going into turn 1. And guys are looking for an advantage, so you'll see them span out 3 and sometimes even 4 wide. And like you said, if you overdrive that entry, don't even have to use a whole lot of brakes, but just overdriving the entry of turn 1, this car can get very loose, especially with the lack of side force that we have this season.
Yeah, right now on your screen you can see riding along with John Perkins, the number 66 Ford Mustang. This enters the corner a little bit too hot, starts to go into a 4-wheel slide, just barely clips the wall with the right rear of his car, and then of course is collected by the field, and they just had nowhere to go. You see Perkins has exited the session, so they'll probably start last next week, being of course the first driver out of this race. Now we're riding along with Kevin Bartelt. This is the first driver to be involved in this incident. You're going to see Perkins go right across his nose here into the corner, gets loose, bounces off the wall into Kevin. Kevin's not had a whole lot of luck this season. He started first in Daytona by virtue of luck, and then of course started first in the second race because he had computer problems out in Daytona. So winner of 2 Mahan, you finished last. Pull awards, so not the best of luck. You can see Snoop Doggy Don Ronco Jr. there in that 00 car. Another driver who hasn't had the best of luck here in the early goings of this season.
Oh, definitely not. And, you know, they definitely have 2 drop weeks in each season that they run. Some guys are starting to push their luck on that and probably not going to be able to make up the points that they need to be toward the front of the pack come the end of this season. But this is good experience getting yourself ready for the next season that'll come up in the second half of the year. So yeah, every little bit of track time is still going to count. Get used to these cars, fill them out, and get ready for that season.
Well, JR, this is also one of the tracks that we're going to come back to later in the season. Of course, the Cup Series comes here once in the spring and then once in the fall. This, of course, being the championship deciding race for the Cup Series. So these guys will be back here before the end of the year.
For sure, and you know, again, brand new car. You know, this is a new experience for everybody out there. So you want to get as much track time as you can, even if you don't have a good run today. You know what to expect coming here next time and how to make adjustments going into that race.
we've seen a lot of drivers kind of overstep the bounds like you were saying, and it's true too that some drivers will end up getting into one another just because the braking point from driver to driver going into these turns differs greatly when you look at, how you're entering these corners.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways that you can approach these corners. Especially, down in turn 1 and 2, there's a lot of differing lines. You can go all the way down to the apron, or you can go, 2, 3 lanes up from the bottom. There's a lot of variations. So there's a lot of variation in corner entry speed because of that. Turn 1 and 2, or turn 3 and 4, you do see some variation, but a little bit less. In my opinion, I think you should be around right in the bottom in 3 and 4. But here we go. We're doubled up. The field is now in control of the leader, Isaiah Dupree, and we're ready to get going again.
Yeah, a long way for the leader to go, of course, without that chaperoneship of the pace car. Of course, it turns left down pit road. This time, Isaiah gets on the throttle really early. You can see he is checked out from the rest of the field.
Waiting, Austin. It's giving him a big advantage here. And one reason to try to do that is just stay away from that possible accident like we saw in the opening lap. So he's cleared himself. Oh, he's actually got sideways, Austin.
Yeah, that was a four-wheel slide from Isaiah as they went down into turns 1 and 2. Thankfully, no one else got into it, but he was very sideways.
It's going to actually move him back here, maybe all the way back to 5th spot. We can see the racing here as looks like Jason Franks is now taking the lead.
Yeah, Frank's now into that first position. No, Django Matthews check it. No, Frank's now dives down to the inside. This is a two-car battle for the lead. Of course, can't forget about Chad Mikas down there on the bottom line. First and third drivers right now do have some damage in that lap 1 incident. There's another caution out on the track, though.
Replay here, it's we're looking at Kevin Bartelt again. Oh, it looks like he nudges into gets nudged, I'm sorry, into turn 1 and 2, and the bad luck for Bartelt continues. Remember, he's the sponsor of tonight's race, so definitely not the start he was looking forward to. Riding on board with him, and yeah, just that right there is one example of the differing agendas that drivers have entering turns 1 and 2, and sometimes it's just, if you have a plan that you're going to drive it in deep, sometimes it's hard to get woed up and avoid contact with another driver.
It sure is, Kenny. We'll come back, though, in just a couple brief moments after this commercial break. Welcome back to the Racy McRace Phoenix 150 presented by Octane 93. Octane 93, aka Kevin Bartelt, driver number 26, is a 33-year-old married cat dad who drives semi-trucks for a living. He strives for a fun and relaxed stream environment where all are welcome to chill and relax in the community. He's an amateur race car driver in real life too. You can check out all his streams at twitch.tv/Octane93. And Kenny, you alluded to it just before we went to the break. Kevin not having the best of luck this season, tonight especially, and it just seems every single race when we have a sponsor, that sponsor just doesn't do great in the race, but somehow they can usually come back at the end for a good finish.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully Kevin's able to get his car fixed up and in a competitive state here by the end. He's got a lot of time to recover here, but I'm not sure if he would have already used his fast repair. He has been in and out of pit road plenty of times, or a couple times anyways. So we'll have to keep an eye on him here, but hopefully he can rebound. But it looks like we're going to have, I think, one more pace lap and then we'll get going green. And we'll have a different leader this time. It'll be Jason Franks up in front. Last time we had Isaiah Dupree, and remember, he really jumped early. And JR, do you think that's a good strategy to kind of jump out early through almost the entry of turn 3 and 4 as long as it's allowed?
As long as it's allowed, go when you feel like you can. One thing you have to watch for is tire spin. Obviously, it didn't hurt on the last restart, starting that early in the corner. So yeah, whenever you feel like it, go. One thing as a leader, as long as it's allowed, the Cup Series is allowed to jump to the apron right after they get past the start finish line. So I would definitely cut that front stretch on every restart that I could.
Yeah, of course, cutting the front stretch does give drivers a much straighter entrance into turns 1 and 2. Really just shorten that whole track in general. But now we go up and down the back straightaway. Jason Franks to the inside. Chad Micas to the outside. Chad showed a lot of speed recently. Started pretty deep in the field. But anyways, we go now on to the front straightaway out of turns 3 and 4. Jason Franks decides to put his foot on the loud pedal. Green flag in the air from Marty the flagman. Jason immediately cuts down off the track to hit the dog leg. Slows down though. Chad Micas with a much better start. The leaders are getting into it though into turns 1 and 2. 3 cars spinning. Huge caution. This is going to be a stack up.
Big stack up, Austin. This is going to affect a lot of guys' races, and that just comes down to what you and Kenny were talking about earlier. It's just differing lines going into turn 1, and just just depending on how far you want to go in and exactly what line you want to take, and sometimes the car just doesn't stick the way you need it to.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the differing agendas were there. It looked like Chad was kind of holding his line up on the outside. Jason just went a little bit too high, and the two made contact, of course, going into turn 1. We'll get another replay here. This is just before the contact happened. Chad got a huge start, a lot of momentum going into turns 3 and 4. You can just see Jason gets a little bit too high there and makes contact with him. Kenny, I mean, you do a lot more of these restarts than I do. Can you really put fault on either driver?
Well, I mean, Chad definitely had a head of steam on the top side, and he seemed to be holding his line a little bit more than the 7 car. Maybe I could guess that maybe Franks thought that Norm Pelletier was kind of sticking his nose in underneath him. Maybe thought he needed to give Norm a little bit more room so that he could enter the corner. But I think it's really just kind of a misjudgment on the 7 car, kind of just moving up the track just a little bit too much. At first, I thought maybe the bump transition from the apron up to the racing line maybe moved his car up, but I think he had enough time to make that adjustment. I think it was just a misjudgment on his line coming back up the track.
Yeah, you can see complete calamity behind these cars as they continue wrecking. A lot of good cars got junked there. You can see pit road very busy right now, especially some of the leaders choosing to come in, get a different set of tires. Kind of puzzled by this decision because I feel like, even though the wrecks so far have all kind of happened either at the front or at the very back of the pack, I feel like you'd rather be up front and less chance to get involved in these incidents, or at least have a blocked track in front of you.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. I would think that you kind of want to be as far toward the front as possible to try to avoid some of this. But some of these guys may be thinking at some point we're going to get a good run here, or at least a decent run, and they can hang out in the back, not run too hard, and leapfrog these guys as pit stops are made a little bit later.
Well, if you think about it, guys, these guys have 7 sets of tires, so uh, basically you have to make a set of tires last around 20 laps. And while we're not quite there, we're on lap 15 at the moment. I feel like some drivers won't necessarily feel hurt by going down pit lane, but really, guys, I think a lot of these guys that are pitting are guys that have, just been involved in some of these wrecks. Remember, some of these cautions we've had have been really large wrecks, which have involved, I'd say, somewhere around half the field. So I can't say I'm surprised to see some of these guys, or a lot of these guys, coming down pit lane.
Yeah, you can see Chris Lanini, the number 92 Ford Mustang, coming out with some damage on the right front of his car. You see Mike Rasmus in the number 68. Yeah, you can't really tell it's Mike Rasmus unless you looked at kind of the 6 on his roof, and then of course his name on the windshield. But he's missing the entire front fascia and hood of that car. Of course, he's been involved in a lot of the accidents so far today, and you can see just how tough these new next-gen cars are. You can kind of beat and bang with them. They will still run, but of course they are going to lose their body panels after enough hard licks. iRacing pace car, of course, completing its last lap out on track. You can see the drivers are doubled up, so should make the hard left turn, and there it does down pit road, giving command of the field over to Chad Michaels, and then Isaiah Dupree to his outside. We saw Isaiah, one of the earlier leaders in this race, and just behind him is Michael Stroll. He's up a whopping 19 positions, started all the way back in 22nd. He's shown a lot of speed this year, and then Thomas George just behind Michael there, starting in 5th. Last week's winner, Scott Eckridge, in that number 70 car. Of course, now the cars come out of turns 3 and 4 towards the start-finish line. And Michael in that green Mountain Dew car, of course, finding the flag and waving the green flag. Huge jump for Michael. He gets a great run. Oh, Kenny, what you got?
Another caution.
Yeah, it looks like we're under caution again here. This one might take a little bit to sort out since not everybody got past the start-finish line. But what I was going to say was just that Isaiah Dupree is the only driver left in the top 10 that started in the top 10. Everybody else, most of the top 10 actually started beyond 20th even. So there's been a lot of jumbling in the field, but that's a product of all the large accidents that we've seen that have come from drivers up front here at the beginning. But we're trying to find this accident here, and we'll see if we can get a replay going. But I'm not exactly sure what that one was for.
Yeah, I can't quite tell on my screen either. It might have been a phantom caution for my racing. We'll try and sort this out, though, in the next couple moments.
Looks like it was just a self-spin down
Oh,
at
yeah.
the apron, and really, he kept going. I'm not sure which car that is, but he kept going, but it looks like he just went slow enough to the point where iRacing was going to throw the caution. So that one's a little bit
I think
unfortunate,
it's
but
Yeah, I think it's Adam Littell in that number 104 car. So it looks like Adam just got a little bit squirrely off of turns 3 and 4 there. Got his car on the apron. Of course, once these cars start spinning out, it's incredibly hard to save them. A much different feel in these cars when they get sideways like that compared to the old cars, JR.
These cars come around extremely quick. It's hard to even feel when the car starts to get loose. And the later you feel it, the harder it's going to be to try to catch it. So these things snap, much like an Indy car snaps when it gets loose. A lot of that's just based on the rack and pinion steering that these cars have gone to.
now, Jerry, you look at that onboard that we were just watching. He was maybe on the transition, like right in between the apron and the main racing line. Do you think that maybe that caused him to kind of magnify his tire spin or kind of just upset the car when he's fired off?
Yeah, 3 and 4 is definitely a place you don't want to get on the apron or that transition zone. It looks like he checked up for the guy that was ahead of him, Fred Thompson, just a little bit, and I'm thinking, just speculating that Adam was going to try to go to the inside and try to make that inside pass down the front stretch here, and just got the left side just a little too far down, and as soon as he hooked that apron, it just brought the car around.
You can see the rest of the cars here still following that iRacing pace car as we are now under. I think this is the third or fourth caution here of the night. This race has been plagued by cautions so far. Typical Phoenix, though, a lot of different lines, a lot of different driver agendas in terms of getting into all these corners. And for the most part, that's kind of been the story of this race. It's just one driver decides to stay up high and enter a little slower, and then another driver might decide to enter in the middle of the corner, maybe down low, enter a little bit hotter, kind of slide up the track, and just a disagreement on where these drivers are going. But you see them now double filing behind the iRacing pace car, which gives us a signal there's only one more lap of caution to go, so green should be coming out the next time by.
Guys, one thing to keep in mind is we're getting close to the point where if we get to about lap 30 or so and somebody pits, then they could probably make it on just one more pit stop. It's a two-stop race, but that window to make it on two is going to start opening here soon. And it looks like the leader's already firing off here on the backstretch, Austin.
Yeah, Chad Micus really putting his foot down early, and I'm assuming there weren't any rules about that in the drivers' meeting. Otherwise, we would see them kind of going a little bit later, maybe at least out of turn 4. That's always been the rule, a kind of gentleman's agreement, at least in the leagues we all race in. But it has really spread the field out, Kenny.
Yeah, you know, when a driver goes super, super early like that, a lot of times it'll catch a lot of drivers sleeping, and especially when everybody has to go through a corner before the whole field's really restarted, it can potentially spread everybody out. You see a lot of 2x2 battles, though, and Chad Micus there going for trying to hold on to the lead, but Michael Stroll has cleared, although Mike is coming back on the bottom.
Yeah, you can see Michael Stroll on the outside. Chad Micus was on the inside. Chad looks like going to let Michael get the better of him right now, not put up too much of a fight, overheat those tires too early. And still Michael Stroll out front. Chad Micus in second. Isaiah Dupree, an earlier leader of this race. And third, Thomas George is in fourth in that number 2 car. And then just behind him is last week's winner, Scott Eckridge, in that number 70 Chevrolet Camaro. You can see how much these drivers really fan out going down the front stretch. Some try choosing to cut that dog leg, others choosing not to.
Absolutely. Guys trying to gain an advantage on each other each and every time they go through there. You do have to be careful with these cars, not so much as you enter the bottom of the track, that transition, but the transition as you come back on the track can kind of upset these cars if you come back at a bad angle. But so far, everybody's made it through these opening laps dealing with that transition.
Yeah, one driver just right now in the wall. Looks like that was Woody Mahan in the number 84 Ford Mustang. Looks like he kind of got in the corner a little bit too sideways and he spun back in towards the wall. But it looks like he's been able to keep the car going. There was a battle for 4th position, so now it's George Eckridge and then Isaiah Dupree. Isaiah was in that 3rd position, but he's now fallen back to 5th. Jeff Ward is in 6th. Other notables, Jonathan Cadell up from 31st to 7th position.
Lots of guys that have started in the back are starting to make their way forward here, gaining a lot of spots, especially with the cautions that we've had. Anybody that's been able to avoid those incidents have moved up quite a bit. Our leader Stroll's up from 22nd place, and his car's pretty well clean, at least for the first half. The back of his car is not so clean where he's been ran into, but he's done a good job avoiding carnage in front of him.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge making a move on Chad Micus. Looks like Thomas George wants to have a piece of Micus as well. Kenny?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring JR in again and ask a question. I've seen in past years or in other cars that the line will move up, especially in turns 1 and 2 here. You don't have to turn the wheel as much. It might preserve your tires and also give you a good run down the backstretch. Do you expect that to happen with this next-gen car?
I would think that it's going to, for sure. I think middle to long run, if you're not running right around the bottom consistently, you see guys kind of doing a diamond run through there right now. You may actually have to dip your left side tires down on the apron to continue to rotate through there. Other guys are going to start to move up and up just like you would on a dirt track and try to run that cushion higher and higher. That groove will continue to move up as we get more laps built into it.
Thomas George has made his way past Chad Micus for the 3rd position. Chad's kind of free falling through the field at this point. Kind of a controlled fall, so I don't know if he might be trying to save his tires compared to the rest of these drivers. But you know, so the car Jeff Ward really fast a couple weeks ago out in Fontana, did a great job there. Looking to do another great job here today in Phoenix. Just behind Jeff is Isaiah Dupree.
We see Micus continuing to fall back a little bit. Not sure, again, if he's saving tires or not, but you can see the front of his car has damage, and these cars they take quite a bit of damage very well. But you can see an opening on his left front fender to hood area. That's going to eliminate some downforce getting into the corner, but I think the bigger concern is probably that front splitter and the distance it is from the ground on these next-gen cars. If anything's damaged on that splitter area, that's going to lose quite a bit of downforce getting into the corners.
Yeah, you can see Isaiah Dupree looking at the inside of Michaels right now. Just behind these guys is Jonathan Cadell, and then James Grahula, one of the drivers we saw, who likes to use the high line most of the time, so we'll see if he continues to be able to use that, especially when Kenny alluded to that line goes further and further up the track. He won't quite be rim riding like he was out in Fontana, but certainly maybe a bit higher than the rest of these guys, showcasing it right now down the front stretch, not cutting that dog leg much like he was. But Kenny, you've made a quite interesting observation about what these drivers are doing.
Yeah, so we talked in the pre-race show about how these guys may be shifting. I'm noticing quite a few of the front runners even are shifting. Now, one thing I'm noticing that's actually surprising though is they're not just shifting down to fourth gear. Quite a few drivers are shifting all the way down to third and only getting up to high gear about three quarters, two-thirds to three-quarters down the straightaway. So these drivers are quite busy in the cockpit. And JR, you alluded to it, that it could be worth some drive off the corner, but it could be at the cost of maybe some added tire wear to the rear end.
Yeah, you're going to have to definitely watch your throttle control and the rear tire spin. And the thing about these cars, you don't always feel it, especially when the tires are fresher and the temps are not all the way up. You don't always feel that tire spin, so you have to kind of regulate it just based on your knowledge until that comes in. And you know, the more that you use that third or fourth gear up off the corner, the warmer you're going to get those tires and the more you're going to pay for it at the end of the run. So these guys are going to have to be careful. We're not sure what these cars are going to do as we get into this run. This is the longest run we've been on so far today.
Running along here with Scott Eckridge, the number 70 car. He's been hunting down our leader the last couple laps. Also of note, James Grahula has passed Chad Mikas. Chad's car very much damaged, like JR alluded to, including that hood area. I don't think it's a whole lot of drag going to the corners. I think Chad's just getting tight into and coming off of the corners, especially. See him make a lot of contact with the outside while he's about to fall into the clutches of the number 57 of Mark Herzog. Luckily for him, no caution comes out. Also lucky for Michael Stroll there too. Scott Eckridge was hunting him down quite rapidly, so caution, a good sign for those drivers. Not a good sign though for Steve Herring. Looks like he backed that car into the wall pretty hard.
Yeah, oh, looks like a car below him got
lucky.
loose and came right up the track. Wow, that was a violent accident. That might that's definitely fast repair worthy. Hopefully those guys have fast repairs in the bank, but we have passed that lap 30 mark I talked about earlier. So if you pit now for fuel, and it looks like all the leaders are coming in for a full service right now. So these guys now, this can be their official first pit stop, and they know that they can make it on just one more stop. So pit lane is super busy, and it looks like nearly everyone is coming in now.
Yeah, I don't see many drivers who've decided to stay out right now. You see Mark Cohn entering the pits. Looks like everyone has now. A couple of drivers choosing to make a bit of a faster stop compared to some others. I don't know if this is just a two-tire stop. Many of these drivers, though, choosing to take four tires. Oh, Scott Eckridge made some contact with, I think that's the, it might have been the 55 car, Brian Yazik down pit road. So those drivers getting into a little bit of trouble. You see Snoop Doggy Don Runkle Jr., that number 00 car, sporting a new livery for tonight. Squirt on that 00 car instead of his older black and yellow paint scheme. Of course, Michael Stroll comes out of the pits. Should be the first car out with full service. Kenny, you've got some interesting information, though, about the first three or so drivers ahead of our previous leaders. We see John Wilco, the driver that got loose and went down the track.
Yeah, it looks like he's coming in for full service right now. But James Krahula, that's one driver that he stayed out this caution. He pitted on the first caution, lap 2, and has stayed out since then. We have some other drivers up front, Tyler Graff, Pete Baskins, and Rich Jetty, who have not made the pit stop, at least this time. They pitted on laps 13 and 19 respectively. So a little bit of change in pit strategy here. So those guys are not quite in as good of a fuel window as the rest of the drivers up front and throughout the pack. But depending on how these cautions fall, they may not be heard. And JR, you alluded to it earlier, is you would rather probably try to stay up front in this early stage and try to avoid all the carnage. And that's probably why they are staying out here.
I would think so, for sure. We know that we've had a lot of cautions so far. Most of them have been on the restarts in that opening lap. So a lot of guys have pitted. You're going to have a differential in speed coming to the green here and going into turn one. So several of these guys may be staying out just to try to avoid any of that carnage as we bail off in the turns 1 and 2.
Of note, I think Scott Eckrich had to have his black flags cleared for passing down pit road under the yellow. He was given an EOL penalty to make sure he at least did serve some sort of penalty, and I think that's from when he made contact with Brian Yazik. He just wanted to get that repaired. Wasn't quite able to take a look at just how damaged each of those drivers' cars were from that incident, but looked like Brian was just going into his box as Scott was coming out. You see another driver, Ricky Hart, in that number 3 car. He only took 2 tires in that. Kenny, what you got?
Oh, I was just noticing that Mr. Baskins, Pete Baskins, is not far away from my hometown, driving the CarQuest car tonight. Looks good, so let's see how he can do. He started 34th, and he's all the way up to 3rd place, so he's looking pretty good so far. Again, 3 drivers in the top 5 start outside the top 30 to begin this race, so again, a lot of jumbling of the field here as we're about to get going green with another new leader, James Krahula.
Yeah, James Krahula in command of the field, not quite going, waiting till he gets to the Geico restart zone, puts his foot on the loud pedal. Huge advantage for him, 3 or 4 car length lead. You can see right there from the camera angle out the back of that machine, that bright neon yellow green machine. They're 2 wide behind him. Michael Stroll, though, the first car on 4 fresh tires, looking to make it 3 wide between the number 40 car, Pete Baskins, on the inside. Then just to his outside is the number 98, Tyler Graf. Stroll instead chooses to make it 3 wide. Going down to the bottom, you can see the rest of the field. All of them have fresh tires compared to the first 3 cars. No caution on the track.
Yeah, it looks like this one was Kevin Stone. At least he got up into the fence out of turn number 2. Not sure if that didn't cause the actual caution, though.
Getting word Mark Herzog might have gotten into the back of the number 27 car of Drew. We'll have to see if we can find that Drew Carroll. Still trying to see what the caution was for here. Not quite sure what the caution had come out for, but we'll be back in just a couple brief moments after these commercial messages.
Oh, I don't think Austin's back yet. We're still
Welcome back. Go ahead, Kenny.
Yeah, well, we're just under caution here in the Racy McRace race 150 here at Phoenix, and JR, these guys trying to get into a rhythm the best that they can, but we had that one little run, a decent run, and you started to see some of the real players there, like Eckrich was one of them, but then he had some trouble on pit lane, and now he's kind of mired back in traffic. So, what do you expect as we approach the kind of 100 laps to go mark here with some of these fast drivers that are kind of stuck in traffic the whole day here?
Yeah, those guys that are fast, they're going to have to be patient through all of these cautions. Unfortunately expect these cautions to continue until probably the last 50 laps of the race. It's just guys trying to get position, trying to figure out this new car, while also figuring out for the first time at this racetrack Phoenix, which I said is a driver's track, and now we have a new car that's difficult to drive. So a lot of people having some issues. They're going to sort it out eventually here, but you're going to have to be patient, avoid the carnage. find yourself a gap to run in. If you're one of the faster guys and you're not up front at the moment, just try to find yourself a gap that's safe to run in until you can slowly make your way back up front. And I think that's what's going to happen for those guys if they want to have a shot here at the end of the race.
Yeah, I think here is a prime example of where you want to race the racetrack, and just how the traffic comes up to you is kind of just, it just is what it is, you know. And so if you can just race the racetrack and run a line that makes sense for you and worry about the traffic as you catch it, that to me, from a driver's seat, that makes the most sense. And that's just, you know, running what's comfortable and kind of getting used to what the car's going to do over the course of a run, because it's obviously going to change and the track's still relatively hot. We started at about 101 degrees. It's down to 99-degree track temp at the moment. And also with drivers going up and down the order here as far as how these guys are running, that's also kind of changing the dynamic of the traffic, because you're constantly racing against different drivers. Remember, this is a 40 plus car field, a lot of different cars in the race.
The driver's now a double file behind that iRacing pace car, makes the hard left down pit road. They've been talking in between the drivers about starting a little bit earlier than normal, just to try and spread out the field in order to not get a caution for just a little bit longer. So look for James Grahula to start this race just a little bit sooner than he did last time. I expect that start to happen in just a few seconds. To his outside is our previous leader, Michael Stroll, who was doing a great job before almost getting caught by Scott Eckert. You can see Grahula puts his foot on the loud pedal. The rest of the field staying, of course, within tow of him. Pretty much a lot better than he did last time. You can see just how spread out he is with that early launch. He had Jeff Ford on the bottom. That's Stroll on the outside. They're looking to make it 3 wide as they come off the corner back deep in the field. That was at number 40 car, Pete Baskins. He's one of the cars that didn't take tires that time. You can see the camera now shifts back to the leaders. Grahula on the inside, Stroll looking for the lead on the outside. He has to be very careful because James has very old tires. The car could be pretty ill handling for him right here. You see Jeff Ward now looking to follow Michael Stroll around the outside of the 4-car James Grahula. He's the car we're riding on board, which decides better of making it 3 wide. Looks though still to the outside of James Grahula.
Michael Stroll's doing a great job right now. He's ran a great race, kept his car clean for the most part. So he just needs to settle in. He's got the lead back. He'll probably start to pull away. Jeff Ward, he's got the tires. He's ran a great race also. You can see him starting to make that pass all the way around Grahula. So he takes over the 2nd position, and I think him and Stroll will probably slowly start to drive away. It also looks like Thomas George is going to be able to do the same.
Yeah, Thomas George has finally cleared that number 4 car of James Grahula as well. So the first 3 cars do have fresh tires. Behind him is Mark Cohn in the number 39 car, kind of Jeff Gordon DuPont 200 years throwback car. I've actually got one of those cars on my desk. Fantastic looking scheme out of Mark. He's shown a lot of speed the last couple of weeks, especially of recent. Fontana, he did really good. Not the best weeks out in Las Vegas, but very competitive for sure. And he looks to be adding another competitive week. Definitely one of the drivers I think is going to challenge for a championship.
For sure. We've ran enough races in this season so far that we're kind of seeing the common names up front. And as we get past or get to the halfway point of this race, you'll start to see all of those names show up at the front. And, you know, that's the way it's going to work out. These are the guys that are the best in this car right now and with the tracks that we're running. And that may change as we get later into the season or into next season. But right now, these are the guys that you have to compete with and try to beat each other.
Yeah, we just cut though to the number 98 car of Tyler Graff. Looks like he just barely got into the wall, kind of overstepping the boundaries of his tires. The driver from Duluth, Minnesota, doing a pretty good job. One of the drivers, like Kenny mentioned, out there on old tires. He did not come down pit road to get 4 fresh feel goods, so he's out there in a lot older rubber compared to the rest of these drivers. You can see Mark Herzog look to his inside there, now pulling away from him, relinquishing him back another position. Currently, he's relegated himself down to about the 21st position. You can see, though, the battle up at the front of the field still as strong as ever. Still Stroll out front, followed by Jeff Ward in 2nd.
Yeah, Austin, I don't know that these guys are going to race each other too hard. I'm sure if the opening's there, Jeff Ward will try to make a pass. But I think right now these guys are probably going to settle in, just try to turn in some laps, get some good green flag runs going here to get to the end of the race.
Kenny, at some point the tires do kind of have to equalize with each other. When do you really expect for that to happen?
Well, I'm not exactly sure when, but you will start to see the lap times kind of get about even. And the good thing for James Krahula, he's really the main guy in question. He only pitted on lap 2. The rest of the guys up front pitted on lap 36, and they all took tires. So, but the good thing for Krahula is he's 5th place and he's in his own little pocket of space. He's not racing with anybody. He's got a train of cars behind him, which might lead to him getting freight trained here in a little bit. But if he can keep putting down just solid lap times and hitting his marks, he may actually be able to, if he's got enough pace in general, be able to kind of run away from these guys. They are still catching him, though. We'll see. But I'm really interested to see Krahula because also if he can somehow stretch it to around lap 85, remember we had a lot of caution laps. He could somehow stretch it to lap 85. He could technically make it on just one stop. So we'll have to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, of course, the caution's definitely playing into his hand. You could see on the graphic on the right-hand side of your screen just how early Krahula is pitted compared to the rest of the field. Looks like everyone else really pitted underneath that second-to-last caution there when we saw everyone go in basically from the front of the field being the leader at the time. Michael Stroll, our current leader as well, all the way back through the field until he got to those 4 cars that stayed out, like the 98, the number 3, who only took 2 tires, kind of on down through the field from there. But you can still see these guys kind of all over the track. Battles happening everywhere. This battle for the lead, though, getting hotter and hotter. And just behind the driver we were just mentioning there, James Krahula, there is a 2-wide battle for the number 6th spot between the number 70 car of Drew Carroll and then Travis McQuistion on the inside.
Oh, and we got contact there, Austin, from Travis McQuistion. Those guys doing a great job not to wreck and bring out a caution, but that could have been big.
Yeah, that was almost a really big incident there. You see more smoke as these drivers head down the start-finish line. I don't see what would have caused that, so thankfully we're still not under caution for the moment. But you see Michael Krolbach there, one of the drivers, kind of making his way back up through the field here after those pit stops earlier on. One driver we saw, do really good last week, actually won last week out in Las Vegas. The number 70 car, Scott Eckert, he was really fast before that the main caution that brought most of the leaders down pit road. Got some damage on pit road, and unfortunately had to go back down in the pits. So we have another caution out on the racetrack. See what the cause for caution was here, riding along, looking at Pete Baskins in the number 40 car. Looks like it happened just in front of him. Rick Thompson getting involved with another driver spinning into the outside wall. You can see the rest of the field going by on the low side.
Yeah, and hard to tell there for sure, Austin, but looks like slight contact might have been made as they came out of the corner. Then that gap opened back up, but that allowed Fred to just get loose coming off the corner from that slight contact. We'll get a better view here as they come off the corner and see if that's indeed what happened. And it was just a little bit of a door nudge that sent him around. And at that point, when the car gets that far sideways, there's not much you can do in these cars. So did a pretty good job not to cause a bigger issue than what it was there.
Yeah, our leaders, most of them now coming down pit road. It looks like a couple drivers, Jeff Ward, Mark Cohn, I believe that's Drew Carroll, also stayed out on the track. You can see a majority of the old leaders now coming down pit road. Chad Mikas, another one of those. It looks like Don Runkle Jr. also down pit road. Django Matthews.
So, guys, we talked about James Krahula and how he was on an off strategy. Well, now he's kind of back onto the strategy of the majority of the field, and look at that. Since the majority of the field pitted, he has now gained a whole lot of positions from where he was running originally. So he's coming out, looks like he's going to be about 8th place, and he came into the pits around 5th or 6th-ish. So really great call from him. He got a little bit lucky there getting caution at the right time, but he played the system correctly. He held his position very well while we were under green, while he had those tires that were at a disadvantage, and now he can go back to playing offense. So that worked out very nicely for him. However, these guys have pitted this time. They still have to make one more pit stop. We still have about 90 to go, so these guys can't make it the rest of the way.
Yeah, also one thing to note as well, we had a lead change coming off of pit road. It looks like Thomas George is able to get out of his pit box just a little bit quicker, so the crew in that number 2 car doing a great job to get Thomas out just barely ahead of Michael. You can see that you saw that battle for the lead as they exited pit road there. Extremely close, about a half a car length between those two drivers, but the crew of that Blue Deuce Machine Series XM getting Thomas out a bit faster than the crew in that 88 car of Michael Stroll. So not a difference of pit strategy, mostly just the RNGs is coming into play there, doing a little bit better on the 2 car. And of course, it could just be sliding the tires too, Kenny.
Yeah, it definitely could. And I'm interested to see here when we reset the field here. Jeff Ward will be up in front with a few cars. Now, these guys will be, they're about 23 laps older tires than the guys who just pitted, but there's a buffer of 5 drivers before they'll get up to Jeff Ward. And remember, Jeff Ward, he's a winner this year. He's driven with a really cool head this season. So he's been up in the front for the championship. So I'm interested to see what he can do. But JR, don't you think that the cars that are 20 laps plus fresher tires, that's going to be a pretty good margin or difference in lap time, because these tires, in history at least at Phoenix, really fall off for the first 30 to 40 laps, and then they kind of equal after that.
Yeah, they definitely do. This is a very abrasive track, a little bit like a cheese grater or something that you would see at Darlington. So, yeah, the tire wear falls off quite a bit, lap times fall off. So, these guys that are on the fresher tires, like Thomas George, he's the first one in line that will have those tires. He's going to have to be a little bit patient on this restart, especially since he's in that outside lane. He's not going to have as many options as the guys that have fresh tires that are on the inside, like Michael Stroll here. He'll be able to cut the track probably a little bit more than everybody else and try to gain advantage on it more, but he's got to be careful as he funnels back up the track.
Over to Jeff Ward, gets on the loud pedal a little bit later than would have expected, kind of after the Geico fanned out nonetheless to see Michael Stroll and Thomas George make a lot of advances through the field. Most importantly, though, for Jeff Ward and Mark Cohn, those drivers were pretty fast on those old tires, quite a bit of a buffer. And even though Kenny mentioned 23-lap-old tires, a lot of those laps were under caution. Oh, contact between 2 cars up in front. Thomas George, it looked like a Drew Carroll, and then number 27 car forcing him up the track. You can see that center of your screen there.
Yeah, everybody doing a great job to gather back up, but now we've got another car. It looked like he spun just past the start-finish line and now going into turn 1 there. We still stay green though, so very surprising. Guys have kept it moving.
Yeah, it looked like Norm Pelletier went down to the bottom of the track to try and get himself out of harm's way, trying to let the rest of the field go by him. Still, the battle for the lead pretty intense for the next couple of drivers. You see Jeff Ward out front, half a second back though to Mark Cohn, and then our 2 main leaders before that caution, the number 2 car of Thomas George and then Michael Stroll and then number 88. Those 2 drivers side by side, trying to see who the first driver is that can get around Mark Cohn.
Definitely, Stroll was working over Cohn very, very aggressively there, trying to get the advantage on Thomas George there. But and Cohn slides up, entering turns 3 and 4, gets into the outside of Stroll, and now he is spun.
Oh, many other drivers involved down through the field. Hard to tell quite who those drivers were with it, camera angle being so far. But a great shot, though, to just see what in the world happens as this, wreck happens in front of everyone, kind of blocking off the whole track there. We're going to ride along with Mark here, entering turns 3 and 4.
Yeah, prepare to get dizzy, guys. He went for quite a ride. He rebounds off the outside wall and then gets hammered a couple times here, and they kind of just stacked up. It looked like he got into a car in front of him and checked up to kind of, have regained control, and just kind of got pinballed beyond it. You see, there's the checkup, and then just got hit from behind and then rebounded off the wall and right into the oncoming traffic.
Yeah, a lot of other drivers involved in that incident. Looks like it was the 92 of Chris Lanini. Really hard to tell, though. Could have been Michael Krobuck involved in that. But we got the cause for the caution here as these drivers sort themselves out. We'll keep you apprised of any drivers that go down pit road, and we'll be right back after this break.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the virtual Phoenix International Raceway for the Racy McRace Phoenix 150 presented by Octane 93. Of course, you might be asking yourself who Octane 93 is. That's Kevin Bartel, driver of the number 26 car. He's 33 years old. He has a Twitch stream. He's a married cat dad who drives semi-trucks for a living. He always strives for a fun, relaxed stream environment where everybody's welcome to chill and relax within his community. He's also an amateur race car driver in real life. Someone else who was a race car driver in real life, J.R. Shepard. You drove for a couple of years in your modified, or not modifieds, excuse me, legend cars.
Absolutely, and I'll just tell you, Austin, a lot of the guys that try to make the transition from real world to virtual world don't always have a smooth transition. I think for someone like me, it was important that I'd actually done virtual racing before the real life stuff. So be interesting to talk to Kevin throughout the season and see how he's been able to acclimate to the virtual world. But yeah, it's not always as smooth, and I can tell everybody that is watching this maybe for the first time that this simulation is it's hard. These cars are hard to drive. There's nothing easy about it. So these guys are doing a great job, even though we've had a lot of cautions here.
For sure, you see the drivers doubled up behind the iRacing pace car. I'm glad you alluded to just how tricky these cars are to control here. Of course, the first time they've been out here on Phoenix International Raceway. Also, you know, new short track feel for these cars. We haven't been on a short track yet this season. Of course, the real Cup cars, they went out to the LA Coliseum. That was their first short track of the season. But for these guys, this is the first time they're out with this short track, you know, not much banking in the corners, you know, very, very small track kind of feel. Of course, Phoenix, you know, not really being a short track, but it has a very much a short track.
Definitely races like a short track for sure, as we see them go back green and Thomas George leading the field into turn one here.
Yeah, George with a really nice jump just ahead of the 69 car. Jonathan Cadell had a really nice restart there. Behind him is the number 88 car, Michael Stroll. Of course, Jonathan did not come down pit road to get new tires under that last caution. James Kabula, one of the guys that did as well. You can see Kabula still racing with some early race damage. Stroll is doing that as well.
Hey guys, Jeff Ward is one guy to watch for. He pitted on that last caution, lap 67, so he's in 16th place at the moment, so he'll be one guy to watch coming through the field here. But again, these guys still have to make one more pit stop. We'll see 8 laps only is the advantage that he has on tires, so it's not a huge advantage, but he's been fast, so we'll watch him come through the field. We're looking at Jonathan Cadell at the moment, and it looks like the leaders have pretty much gotten into a single file line all the way back really beyond 10th, 11th, and 12th is basically first side-by-side battle.
Yeah, one driver finally back up inside of the top 10 is last week's winner, the number 70 car, Scott Eckridge. He's doing a great job. He was almost challenging for the lead there in the early parts of this race, but has now made his way back inside the top 10. A lot of speed in that car. Had to come down pit road twice and then serve an EOL penalty a couple of cautions ago, so he's been very methodically, slowly making his way up through the field.
I think a lot of guys are, you know, especially the fast guys like Scott here, they're being very smart, not trying to get in a hurry, and you know, playing into what Kenny said, you have to race this track. So I think guys are learning that more and more as we go here. I think you actually see, I believe that might be Michael Stroll that got a little bit loose and is pulled down to the inside.
Yeah, big moment there for Stroll. He got loose, pulled down to the inside, gave away a good number of positions there. The next side-by-side battle going on is between the number 9 car, Jeff Ward. Kenny, you just mentioned he got those 4 fresh tires underneath the last caution to his outside Mike Rasmus. You can see just behind those 2 drivers is Adam Mattel, one of the drivers who kind of self-spun coming off turns 3 and 4 a couple of cautions ago. So doing a great job to make his way back up through the field, currently running at 14th.
Yeah, Jeff Ward, he's up to 12th. He's restarted in about 16th position, so he's definitely cutting his way through the field, but I'm not sure how much of it is the tires and how much of it's actually just his general pace. You know, he's definitely had the general pace to be a front runner. Ooh, cars in front of him getting into each other. That's going to help him as long as they stay clean here, and it looks like he's going to maybe grab 2 more spots down into turn 1 the next time by, so Jeff Ward, definitely a guy to watch out. Remember the race that he won at California? We were watching him near the end of that race because he had a tire advantage, and sure enough, he ended up winning.
Yeah, the two drivers making contact there just ahead of Jeff Ward was the number 93 of Travis McQuistion and the number 92 of Chris Lanini. Those 2 drivers are getting it sorted out quite fast, though. So luckily, no caution. Both those guys able to keep it off each other and the wall. So we stay green.
See Jeff Ward continuing to move forward, and he's just running his nice pace right now. I don't think he's pushing real hard. I think he's just taking his time. He knows he has slightly fresher tires, and he's got a good feel for this car, obviously, from what we've seen in the opening races, and he's getting acclimated to this track as well. And I think as long as we stay green here, he's going to continue to march into that top 5.
He's doing a great job. We look now back up to the front of the field. Thomas George just behind him, though, is that number 69 car, Jonathan Cattell, still having a pretty nice run. Just behind those 2 drivers is Scott Eckridge all the way up from the back of the field. Scott's having a really good day out here today, looking to be the first repeat winner of the season so far. Looking now to the inside of Jonathan as they head down into turns 1 and 2. Using the apron there, going to slide up the track as he exits turns 1 and 2. Really wide corners. He can do pretty much whatever you want, including take advantage of that apron.
You know, we talked about it before the race started that these cars seem to be a little snug getting into both entries on this racetrack. So one way to help that is to use that apron, and we see Scott using a little bit of that getting into turn 1 here. So yeah, he's using his resources, and I mean he's just going up there and taking the lead of this race very easily. I mean that did not look hard on him at all.
Yeah, I don't know if that was Scott kind of overextending his tires for the time being, or maybe Thomas George is kind of realizing, hey, you want this a lot more than I do for the moment. I'll save my tires. You can go ahead and have the lead for right now.
Guys, we've documented Jeff Ward's charge through the field. He's just taken 8th place and he's working on 7th, and he's continued to have really good pace, possibly faster than the leaders when he's at least not in traffic here. He's looking to make a move. We're riding on board or on the roof of him. Oh, and he gets into Joe Hassert there. That drives him up into the wall. And again, JR, that's again different agendas going into the corners, and possibly magnified because of the fact that Jeff Ward had newer tires. He's just used to driving in a lot deeper than the 11 car was.
Yeah, definitely 2 factors there. Just drivers taking a little bit different line, different entry speeds, because of everybody's driving style being a little bit different. And of course, Ward being on a little fresher tires, he's going to go into the corner a little bit further than some of the guys in front of him on those old rubbers. So yeah, just not a lot of contact, but enough that it definitely hurt the car in front of him, sent him up into the wall. And now, as you can see, Jeff Ward's got a hole in his hood. I don't know if that's going to affect him aero-wise, because it looks like it's just a slight opening, but it is on that outside corner. So I mean, if anything, this could could take downforce away from that right side of the car and actually allow that car to rotate a little bit more through the corners.
Yeah, big disadvantage, and especially aero-wise in terms of drag down the straightaways. Luckily, these straightaways aren't too long. These drivers really only getting about to maybe 120 mile an hour before they finally break for the corner. Looking about 130 at most. Thankfully, though, for Jeff, And it doesn't look like his splitter is too damaged, so he still should have a bulk of that downforce, unlike we saw Chad Micas have earlier in the race.
See, he's already closed up on the guys in front of him, Stroll and Krahula here. Probably within the next couple of laps, he's going to be able to make some passes on those guys. So I don't think that the aero damage is affecting him much at all. He'll continue to move forward here, I expect.
Yeah, Kenny, you've got an update, though, on what these leaders are going to have to deal with in the next couple of laps.
Yeah, guys, I'm just noticing for the first time tonight, we may start seeing some lap traffic. You got Fred Thompson and Django Matthews. They're the first drivers, 32nd and 31st, to possibly go a lap down. Now, granted, Scott Eckrich, he has a pretty healthy lead. You see it from our blimp view here. That black car in the middle of the screen is Eckrich. And so he has time to be methodical getting through this lap traffic. But you start getting back into traffic like Brian Yazik and Thomas George, for example, having a good battle amongst themselves. When they get up into the traffic, JR, that's going to, I mean, you could definitely use a lap car as a pick here. It's very useful depending on what lines everybody decides to pick.
Yeah, for sure. So everybody's got a different line that they're comfortable running right now. They know what their car is doing and what to expect from running the car in that line. If you come up on a lap car that's running the exact line that you want to run while you're racing somebody, that could give that person you're racing a big advantage if they're able to make their car work on the inside or outside of where the lap car is running. And I mean, one guy that could definitely make that happen would be James Krahula here. He's one that always runs a different line. And that's something I like. That gives you options in those situations.
Yeah, Kenny, of course, often saying if you want to make passes, especially on dirt or in place where, you know, the track is really line sensitive, you can pretty much go wherever you want, you know, you got to go where they ain't in order to make those passes. Jeff Ward now all the way up into the 5th position, only trailing Brian Yazik, Jonathan Cadell, and Scott Eckrich, of course, the first 4 drivers just ahead there of Jeff. You can see all these drivers right now battling for 2nd position because so far Scott Eckrich has just checked out compared to the rest of this field.
Yeah, for sure, Austin. He's opened up over a 1.5 second lead over Jonathan Cadell, and over a second back to Thomas George from there. So Scott Eckrich definitely got this race in control at the moment. He's one of the guys that's hoping we do not have any more cautions, but we'll have to see if it stays green. We'll eventually have some green flag pit stops, and that can lead to a caution itself just trying to get to pit road here.
Whoa, just ahead of Jeff Ward, 2 cars making contact with each other. It looked like that was the number 46 of Fred Thompson, at least one of them. Not the cause for caution, though, out on the racetrack. I think the other one of those drivers being Brian Yazik when he was trying to put that number 46 car, Fred Thompson. Of course, our pole sitter today, down 1 lap.
Yeah, the actual cause of caution there this was kind of interesting. It was actually Django Matthews who was just ahead of that little battle, and it's weird. It looks like he actually blew his engine going into turn 3 and 4. Not sure if it was from damage or maybe an improper shift, but that kind of caused him to just kind of spin down to the apron lazily and into the fence. So I guess a good thing he was at least able to get out of everybody's way. Yeah, that was not.
Yeah, it's strange too because you can just see those RPM kind of drop. So yeah, very, very strange from that driver. Of course, he was entering that corner there, so I don't know if that was just an early downshift or, of course, maybe just misjudging something. Could always be just an equipment failure, but we see a lot of these drivers now heading down pit road. And Kenny, you alluded to it. This is the last stop these drivers are going to have to make.
Yeah, they're basically just inside their window here. They will have less than 60 laps to go. So these guys should be able to make it on fuel anyways. Might get a little bit close if there were any green-white checkers, but looks like Scott Eckrich here, he's going to have a really good pit stop, and he's going to shortcut pit lane a little bit on exit, but he's going to come out. I think he'll be the leader easily. And yeah, it's basically going to put everybody on an equal strategy here, and they'll just have to race it up to the end. But Jeff Ward, I will note, he got up basically up to the top 5, maybe around 6th place before we pitted there, and Ward is going to come out, it looks like 5th place. Now he doesn't have a tire advantage, but I really think he made up most of those spots that last run just on his outright pace, because the other drivers who pitted with him on that last caution, they did not make nearly the amount of progress. So I'm still keeping my eye out on the 9 car as a possible winner for this race.
For sure, and also one thing I made note of too, the number 88 car of Michael Stroll. His rear end, if you remember, it did have damage on the last run coming off of pit road. This time that damage gone right now, so I believe he just took his fast repair, Kenny.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, I think a lot of fast repairs were used pretty early in this one, but the second half of this race has been a lot cleaner, and the wrecks that we have had have been a lot smaller. So, quite a few cars up towards the front are pretty clean. I did notice earlier Brian Yazik, his rear end's pretty damaged, but other than that, most of the leaders are in pretty pristine condition, and I think it's going to be a pretty heads up fight to the end. There's a look at Yazik's car. It's definitely got its battle scars, but he's shown top 5 pace all day. So, run it.
Yeah, I think Brian got most of that damage from when Scott Eckridge was exiting his pit stop. Excuse me, just as Brian was braking and turning left into his pit box. So I think those two cars kind of got together. I think Scott, though, did take his fast repair. Another driver that took his fast repair, we made mention of the damage that Jeff got after hitting the back of Big Joe Hassert in the number 11 M&M sponsored machine. So you can see Jeff's hood looking pristine now, so he definitely just took his fast repair. So a lot of these drivers out of fast repairs for the moment. You can see the 11 car that's who Jeff made contact with. Doesn't seem like he made at least took his fast repair under that last stop, because you can see still has damage on the entire right side of his car, especially on the rear though, where we saw Jeff make contact with him.
Yeah, no, I think we're at the point of the race that if you're one of the guys that had some speed, had some damage, and was saving a fast repair, now was the time to use it. It's probably going to be your last pit stop unless we get a midway run here, and you see it taking off early here, Austin.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge puts his foot on the loud pedal extremely early. As soon as a pace car turned left down pit road, pretty much at turn 22, so an extra about a half a lap green for most of these drivers. You can see Scott just now crossing the start-finish line. Huge advantage for him. Pretty much about a 10 car length lead over that 6 here tonight. Started in the 31st position, so he's gaining 9 spots up to this point. Behind him, though, Brian Yazik and that number 55 car fighting with him to finish. And then just behind those guys, Jeff Ward. Be really interested to see what run Jeff Ward can have, certainly having the same tire wear as the rest of these drivers, and also starting higher up in the field compared to last caution.
Absolutely, we're going to pay attention to him trying to move forward from that 5th place running position at the moment. I expect as this run goes on, he's probably not a guy that's going to have just extreme speed at the beginning of a run, but as we get laps into this run, he's going to continue to move forward.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge continuing to put down faster and faster laps here. You can see that purple time on the board being the personal best for every driver inside this entire session. Of course, if there were any green times there, that would denote a driver personal best, but of course, Scott having the fastest lap of the session. The driver from Waterloo, Illinois, having a great run out here tonight, looking for the first driver back-to-back 2 races in a row as well.
Certainly doing a good job to try to accomplish that tonight. He's got a ton of speed. We've seen him have some adversity early in this race, and he's been able to come back from that and retake the lead. So if guys have anything left in the tank, they need to be fighting it and trying to move forward to capture that lead from Scott, because he's got control right now.
Yeah, riding along here on the roof camera from the number 9 car of Jeff Ward, trying to do everything he possibly can to get around the number 4 car, James Kahula. You can see Kahula's car has its battle scars as well. He was involved in an early caution, still hasn't taken his fast repair yet. Being just a little bit conservative with that fast repair. You can see, Kahula getting extremely sideways down on the bottom of the track, and that number 9 car says, yes, please, I'll take that. Look at the number 88 car there of Michael Stroll, and the number 68 of Mike Rasmus also taking advantage of that just slight slip up from James Kahula there.
Yeah, and one thing to pay attention to, Kenny talked about it earlier, racing this racetrack and kind of forgetting the guys around you. Now we're toward the end of this race. Guys are going to start to forget about that and start worrying about the guys that are around them. And as they do that, you could see happen what happened to Kahula there. You may just overdrive that entry just a little bit, and if you do, the car's either going to push up the track or it's going to get loose on the brakes. So we saw what happened there. He's lost several spots because of that.
Yeah, a lot of drivers cutting down to the inside of him. Not certainly what he wanted to see. We're riding along, of course, with Carroll. The first driver, of course, that wasn't able to take advantage of that slight slip up from there, James Carroll. You can see just behind him, earlier in the race, on number 86 machine, driven by Isaiah Dupre, having a pretty good run out here today as well.
Guys, I've been keeping an eye on the lap times, and generally Scott Eckridge still running the fastest lap times. Every once in a while, though, Jeff Ward will match him. He's running in the 4th spot right now. Mike Razimus, remember, he's been the most consistent driver in this championship all year long. He is the points leader coming into this event. He's in 6th spot. He's occasionally beating the leader in lap, or at least matching lap time. But really, Eckridge pretty comfortably out in front right now. I think it might take a caution for him to use this thing.
Yeah, it's important to note too, last week out in Las Vegas, Scott Eckridge had a huge wreck in the first half of the race, pretty much nose his car into the wall, had to take his fast repair earlier tonight. He also had adversity to overcome, so pretty much been the defining moment of both his race wins this season, if he does in fact win this race tonight, as well as a huge hiccup and a chink in the armor in the first half of his race, and then in the second, he's really just been the driver to beat.
Absolutely has, Austin. And just to go back to Mike Rasmus, you know, like we said, he's the points leader currently coming into this race, and we've not talked a whole lot about him because he's kind of been quiet. I think he's just kind of been minding his business and staying out of things, but now that we're in the last third of this race, he's starting to march to the front and, you know, inside the top 10, running in 6th, and actually closing in on the guys in front of him.
Yeah, of course, that's how, you know, and oftentimes the drivers before we've had this chase format, it's really about consistent finishes. You saw Dale Earnhardt wouldn't always go out and win the most races. I can remember one year in the early 90s, Rusty Walls went out, he won 10 races, and still Dale Earnhardt beat him just by winning only a couple, you know, compared to Rusty Walls, just based on his mere consistent finishes, taking the title crown, a couple for championships. Looking at Drew Carroll and the number 27 car.
This has been a pretty good battle here. These guys have been really close to each other, running pretty consistent lap times, and they're just trying to work each other over and find some way to get around the other one. And it's been a close battle for sure. And Kahula's the one leading that charge at the moment.
Kenny, you made an interesting note though about the track temperature.
Yeah, guys, I'm just noticing it's getting later in the day, and it's about 3:20 p.m. In sim time, and that's right. And it looks like the track temp is dropping. It started at just over 100 degrees when we started this race, and it actually dipped down to 96 for a moment. It's back up to 97 now, but it's definitely going to help the grip, and it's going to help the lap times as we go on here. One thing I'm noticing, though, a separate point here, we're watching Jeff Ward. He's trying to take 3rd place away from Brian Yazik, and he is struggling to get around him. He's trying the high line up in 1 and 2, trying the low line in 3 and 4. And JR, this is one of those things where driver in front of you is slower than you, but maybe not so slow. You see him go to the outside here, and he just can't hold it on the right rear of Yazik.
No, he can't. That outside is definitely slippery. You can make it work, but you have to be very, very precise. You miss the entry just a little bit, and the car's going to take off on you. As you see him go through turns 3 and 4, it's predominantly a low line corner. Everybody's going to run about the same, but as they come back and approach turn 1, you'll see different lanes here. You see Ward actually running the middle of the track this time by trying to push that groove a little bit higher so he can come off the corner straighter and get a big run down the backstretch.
Oh, our leader, Scott Eckridge, got checked up big time going down the back straightaway, trying to make his way around. It looked like the number 61 car, Jeff Gilliam. Jeff kind of was up the track, and then he went low as soon as Scott did. Just a bit of a miscommunication between those two drivers, and that's just what happens when you're the leader. You're the first car coming up to put these cars a lap down. You can see him navigating underneath the number 12 car there of Howard Wildrick.
Yeah, and he's you know, he's been patient most of the race. He's going to have to continue to remind himself of that as he catches these lap cars. He's got almost a 3-second lead, so he can afford to take less risk and be a little conservative as he passes these guys. But Austin, looks like we got another caution on the speedway.
Yeah, one more caution out on the racetrack. We'll look at the replay here to see what the cause for caution was, but definitely not what Scott Eckridge wanted to see. Probably what some other drivers wanted to see in terms of getting them back in contention for this, but with that 3-second lead, definitely not what he was hoping for. It looks like Danny Gutierrez, the number 08 car, was involved in this one.
Yeah, guys, looks like he was turned by Mark Herzog down the backstretch. Definitely a netcode collision there, but I think they would have maybe had contact even if there wasn't netcode. It looks like the 57 just kind of drifted left just a bit. I think he may have balked a little when Jason Franks got really close to the wall on corner exit, and that may have kind of spooked the 57 car into moving left to possibly avoid him. We're taking a look at the replay now, and you'll see Herzog is the white car on the high line in the rear there, and we're looking at the slow-mo here, and Jason Franks up ahead. He gets right up by the wall, and you'll see the 57 car kind of drift left on corner exit when he sees that, and it leads to the contact with Gutierrez and causes those couple of cars to wreck. You see him get really close to the wall there, and this all happens a lot faster than the slow-mo, and and Mark just kind of drifted over into Gutierrez there. But yeah, we'll have to reset here. And a lot of drivers are now on pit road as well, trying to take another set of tires.
Yeah, and once again, unfortunately, Kevin Bartelt, our sponsor for this race, Octane 93 on Twitch, involved in that. You can see, you saw it just before we went away from the slow-mo here. I think you might be able to see it from the view of Danny Gutierrez. He gets turned around. You can see the number 26 car up, and just right there, it gets tagged by Mark as he comes back up the track. So once again, Kevin involved in a lot of these accidents, really not of his own doing, just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Definitely had a lot of bad luck to open the season. Again, like we talked about earlier, he's one of the guys that's hoping to get into season 2 of this series and try to have some better luck, because he's definitely got good speed. Just finding himself in the wrong place at the wrong time a lot lately.
Yeah, you saw our leader, though, of note, went down pit road, had a 4-tire change of 4 fresh feel goods on his car. I see another driver, Don Runkle Jr., down pit road, changing his tires as well. A couple drivers stayed out here, but of course, Scott Eckridge now transitioning back to the lead. It looks like a lot of drivers taking the wave around right here, so they'll be waved around the pace car. Once we get the 1 lap to green here, it looks like it's going to be Django Matthews and John Wilco, the 2 drivers.
Everybody's going to be straight up on tire strategy here. They're all going to be equal on tires once again. And JR, you know, since we have less laps on these tires to the end of the race, that's going to just up the aggression level, because you're not going to have as much wear by the end of this thing. So the later and later that these guys pit, the more and more aggressive and the harder they're going to drive their cars to the end.
Absolutely. That just gives them more tire that they can use up since there's less laps left in this race. And you know, another interesting thing, you know, these are fixed setups, You do have brake bias that you can change to kind of affect how the car drives getting into the corner based on your driving preference. But, you know, another thing, Kenny, you can decide not to take fuel when you pit if you feel like you have enough to get down to the end. So that can definitely change the handling of this car too, or, you know, lighten it up a little bit to help you get down those straightaways.
Yeah, of course, just before the end of the race here, before we pay out points, we will go through the point standings in just a minute here. We're about to go green though. Scott Eckridge still in command of the field. Brian Yazik to his outside. Jonathan Cadell in third, and then Michael Stroll in the 88 car in fourth. You see Scott puts his foot on the loud pedal just about halfway down the straightaway. Huge lead for him. I expect him to go ahead and eke out an even larger lead before the end of this race, assuming we can stay green. But these cars still fanning out all over the track as they go through the dogleg into turns 1 and 2.
Definitely seeing several guys dive to the inside of that dogleg trying to get advantage. Oh, looks like we got a car going around. Looks like that might have been the 55 of Brian Yazik.
Yeah, looks like Yazik just went down into 1 and 2, kind of lost control of the rear end of that car. You can see we're going to ride along with him. I'm getting word now that it might have been the number 69 car of Jonathan Cadell who got in here and spin him out there.
Yeah, it's really, really tough to control these cars whenever you get any contact, especially on the entry to turn 1. But it's also easy to lose the car completely by yourself, and it looks like that's what Yazik did. Just fresh tires, cold tires, and not a whole lot of banking down there in turn 1 and 2, and very easy to do exactly what Yazik did. One thing I do want to note, though, guys, Jeff Ward, he pitted last caution, but he dropped an astronomical amount of spots down outside the top 20. I believe he got a penalty of some sort or something. He had to let a bunch of cars by. So just one quick note there. But Austin, you have the quick points rundown here to see possibly how they may be affected going after this race.
I do, Kenny. Points are going to be paid out here in just a couple laps. You see, like you and JR mentioned, Mike Rasmus doing a great job leading the points right here. Michael Stroll been strong in all these races, doing really good in second position. Our Daytona winner, Norm Pelletier, in third place, just about 11 points behind second of Michael Stroll. Thomas George been very competitive in all these races. And then last week's winner, the current leader right now of this race as well, Scott Eckridge, doing a great job there rounding out your top 5.
It looks like you got Rich Jetty in 6th, James Grahula in 7th, Jason Franks in 8th, Chad Mikas in 9th, and Brian Yazik rounding out your top 10 in points so far this season.
Yeah, of course, only about 1/3 of the way through this inaugural season here of the Pretty Good Racing League with these next generation NASCAR Cup Series stock cars. You can see running through the rest of your points here. A couple notables down further through the field. You can see Django Matthews there, 19th. Travis McQuistion rounding out your top 20. You can see John Wilco there as well. A couple of our most recent sponsors, Fred Thompson, the pole sitter of this race.
See Kevin Bartelt in there. He's a sponsor of this race. Been kind of a struggle for this season for him, but like you said, it's early in the year and a lot of time to recover.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of speed out of Kevin, doing a great job here all throughout the season, but more often than not involved in wrecks, not of his own doing, just kind of in the wrong place at the wrong time. The driver that has been in the right place at the right time, especially last weekend, right now, is going to be your current leader, Scott Eckridge, the number 70 car, doing a great job here. And you can kind of see it's basically, you know, your front 5, 6, 7, 8 cars, basically a who's who, you know, in terms of championship contenders so far. You've got Eckridge, Stroll, Grahula, Rasmus, Mikas, Jetty, doing a great job currently in the top 10. iRacing pace car pulls down pit road. You can see Scott fires almost immediately. The rest of the field, though, not as caught out as they were last time, so you can see those cars a lot further and closer to the toe of that car just in front of you. You can see Jonathan there, second place. Michael Stroll on the inside of James Cahulla. Those cars getting extremely close off turns 3 and 4.
Absolutely, everybody funneling back into turn 1 here. Side by side still with Krahula and Stroll. Behind them, we have Mike Rasmus and Chad Mikas trying to make their way back to the front.
Yeah, Chad Mikas doing a great job. You can see him on the outside of Mike Rasmus in the number 68 car. Gray and black for him. Great looking car, especially Chad Mikas as well. You see the ride along right here with Chad Mikas. You can just kind of see, you know, all these differing agendas, especially not just into and out of the corners, but especially with that dog leg. You see a lot of drivers cutting that much more than others.
Yeah, they definitely are. One thing you have to watch out for is your entry into turn 1. You may end up taking a little shallower entry there, so you're going to have to back out a little earlier to prevent your car from pushing up the track and giving room to the guys behind you. You can see Rasmus actually got a little bit loose coming across the start-finish line there.
Yeah, just actually 2 corners before that, looked like James Cahulla got extremely loose coming out of turns 1 and 2. Almost looked like he was going to block Mike Rasmus as they went down the backstretch there. But you can see the first couple drivers right now single file all the way back. You can see after getting sideways down the front stretch there, Mike Rasmus falls all the way down into 7th place, back into the clutches of Rich Chetty.
Jetty's not one that we've talked a whole lot about during this race, but you can see as we're getting in the last 25 laps here, he's now moved up into 6th spot and trying to get himself into the top 5 here.
Yeah, crucially, a lot of these drivers staying a lot closer to Scott Eckridge than they had before. You can see Scott's lead currently about 0.6 of a second, you know, before the last caution, at least big caution, green flag run terms. It was about 3 seconds before that, so it looks like he's either being a little bit more conservative on his tires or just the rest of the field getting a little bit quicker.
I would speculate Eckridge is being extremely smart because he's had tons of speed all day long. I think he knows who he's racing right now and knows that he may get a late caution, so he's probably trying to save a little bit for that just in case.
Oh, Kenny, what you got on Jeff Ward?
Yes, so I think Jeff Ward had a penalty for, I think it was passing under yellow. I was trying to listen into the race control, and what happened, I think he was trying to pit to serve a penalty, and at the same time, he got his black flags cleared. Well, he passed pit lane and then stopped on the track, which brought out a yellow. So I'm not, there was some kind of miscommunication going on there, and regardless, that's going to drop Ward back through the field from this. But yeah, you see in the replay there, he just kind of, he misses pit lane, and then he just kind of comes to the stop, and that's what brought out the caution. So this is there's kind of a weird event there going on. I heard them talking over the radio on race control, and looks like we're going to have to reset here with less than 30 laps to go, and it'll be actually probably less than 20 here once we get going green. So very odd set of events there that's really kind of hurt Jeff Ward's chances of winning this thing.
Yeah, I believe Jeff Ward actually was DQ'd. I'm reading the in-race driver chat. He's saying he got DQ'd, so we'll have to see if that's the case. So he was able to continue, so we'll have to see what happens for the rest of this here. But yeah, basically, I think what I'm hearing on the driver chat was a fan of black flag, Kenny, for these drivers, basically starting much earlier than they should be.
And probably it gave him that black, and they didn't clear it until until iRacing said, hey, you know, you didn't serve it, your penalty quick enough, so we're going to DQ you for it, is my guess. And then they tried to clear it, but he's still out there. But we'll have to monitor that and see where he ends up. But we do have a few drivers coming in the pit lane, but it's mostly drivers towards the back half of the field. Norm Pelletier is the highest place of those drivers that are coming in. Jeff Gilliam, Danny Gutierrez, Fred Thompson, Jeff Ward, also in the pits. We'll see if Ward just takes a normal service or not. But a lot of these drivers, they've either been previous waiver rounds or they've been drivers involved in some accidents. So yeah, it looks like Jeff Ward's car is going up on jacks. So he's coming back out too. So we'll have to look forward to him possibly making up some spots here at the end.
Yeah, you can see Scott Eckridge stopped on track waiting for that pace car to come around. Obviously, being the in-race admin, trying to do everything he can to make sure that Jeff can continue in this race. I do want to mention, though, looks like that number 61 car of Jeff Gilliam, as well as it looked like the car of Joe Albertio. Um, down pit road. Those were a couple of the drivers that had to take the wave around a couple cautions ago. So they got their laps back. That's the most important thing. That's what you want to do first. Then as soon as that was taken care of, Diego Matthews, one of those drivers as well, they all decided to come down pit road and get their last service for the night because they probably would have run out of fuel before the end of the night.
Thought that just crossed my mind on these restarts is, you know, we talk about how important it is to cut that dog leg, especially on restarts. You can get cut a huge amount of time out of your lap time for the first couple laps on a restart by using it. However, with these guys being allowed to, the leader being allowed to jump the restart or start the field so early down the backstretch, it kind of takes that element out of it as we're going green right now.
Yeah, Kenny, it certainly does. You can see Scott puts his foot on the loud pedal, still doing a really good job on all these starts and restarts to kind of gap the rest of the field, make sure he has a pretty large lead, uncontested, as he goes down into turns 1 and 2, even 3 and 4 for that matter, doing a great job staying ahead of these cars. You can see Michael Stroll are doing a good job. And how about the number 69 car of Jonathan Liddell having a really nice run here tonight? Started pretty deep in the field, like I mentioned. He's been hanging on to the second position for probably at least a half of this race.
Yeah, he's been very impressive once he's got up there, showing that he's definitely got speed. I mean, he's not roadblocking these guys at all, you know, and being able to keep himself in close distance to Scott that's in the lead. So, yeah, doing a great job, up from 31st starting position today.
Yeah, you saw Scott get really loose out of turns 1 and 2 that time, going down the backstretch. These guys are still giving it all they can for the rest of this race. Kenny.
Yeah, it's just the leaders have already single filed out all the way back beyond the top 10, which is a little bit surprising to me. You see Kevin Stone making his way down pit lane. He may or may not be done for the day. We'll have to see. But yeah, these restarts, the early starts are definitely spreading the field out, or at least preventing drivers from staying 2 by 2 for very long. There you go. You see them snake down the backstretch here and going into turn 3. We're approaching 16 laps to go, and Eckridge trying to build up that lead. Like you guys were saying, not building it up too quickly, but just being solid and running consistent lap times. However, James Krahula now making a move for 3rd place on Michael Stroll.
Yeah, you can see that just on the left-hand side of your screen now, right front and center of you. Krahula on the inside, Stroll on the outside. Krahula trying to take that inside line here. Usually we've seen him going high, especially last week out in Las Vegas. He was choosing the high line. Right now it looks like Michael's only giving him the low line. You can see these two guys got to be really careful, though, because just behind them, kind of stalking right now, Chad Mikas in the number 25 car.
Yeah, you know, Micah's took his fast repair on that last, or before this last caution came out, the one before that. And, you know, we've not really seen him out there with a clean car in a long time. The last time he had damage and was kind of falling back. So interesting to see if he can continue to march forward to see what kind of speed he has.
Yeah, just behind those drivers is the number 2 Blue Deuce there, Thomas George. We saw him be really competitive here in the earlier parts of this race, fighting for the lead. Then he had some sort of pit road speeding penalty or something to put him back deeper in the field. Finally made his way back up into the top 10, currently riding in 7th position, just kind of stalking Mike Rasmus in the 68, current points leader, and then Chad Mikas.
These guys pretty much single file out. You see Scott Eckridge there. He's built up a lead over a second ahead of the rest of this field, and his last lap there was faster than everybody else in the field. James Krahula actually had the 2nd fastest lap time there. at 28:39 to Scott Eckhrich's 28:37, which is pretty impressive from James, being that he's in traffic. But Scott's doing a great job out front. And again, another restart, which could definitely happen, can make things interesting, but he's doing a good job out front.
Yeah, Kenny, this deep into a green flag run, or at least several of them. Do you come down pit road to get 4 fresh tires, or you kind of made your bed now?
Boy, I feel like you've made your bed now, especially coming to 10 to go at this point. You know, we've seen tires be advantageous, but I just don't think it's worth the risk of, especially when you're racing for a championship, worth the risk of putting yourself that far back with how many wrecks that we've seen. Um, and I feel like we've seen guys like James Krahula have a lot of success on old tires too, and at least be able to kind of maintain. So I feel like drivers would have noticed that early on, and would probably go that route and keep the track position.
You can see Krahula and Rasmus trying to stock the Prey currently, that Prey being the number 88 car of Michael Stroll. And again, the top 5 of this race, kind of been up in the top 5 all race long. The only driver not in the picture right now is the driver just behind these packed cars. Of course, Thomas towards the Chad Likas. Chad is really fast earlier in the going, like you mentioned there, Jerry, before he got that damage. Forced him into a bit of a tight condition for most of this race, but underneath that last pit stop, he didn't come down that faster pair, so showing a lot more speed out of him right now.
Well, yeah, it's one of the guys showing really, really good speed at the end of this race. Mike Rasmus, he was already in the top 10, but he's really chased down these guys that are in front of him, and you can see him continuing to work over Krahula here, trying to find a way around. He's running that different line. He's kind of doing the high-end, low-out line to try to get a run on him, but just hasn't quite gotten side by side.
Yeah, doing everything you can. Looks like it is still pretty difficult to pass here. Even with the different lines that a driver can choose to run, you can see it look like James getting really close to the wall. Rasmus looks to the high side and able to do much of it.
Yeah, guys, I'm noticing these cars, they appear to be really pushy tight, and I think that's kind of preventing these guys from really being able to roll the top and keep their nose next to the driver they're going after. However, Krahula moves up high. That was maybe a miscalculation, also trying to go for a pass on Stroll, and that's going to give the bottom to Rasmus. He's going to cut the dog leg, dive into turn 1. He's going to clear for 4th place. Remember, Rasmus, our points leader, he has finished 3rd all 3 weeks so far this season, looking to continue the streak of 3rd place finishes, and he's got 6 laps to get that 1 position back.
Yeah, 6 laps to make up what is about a 4/10 of a second deficit to the car ahead of him, being the number 88 of Michael Stroll there. A lot of these drivers showing a lot of good pace here. We'll see if Mike can make it a 4-peat here for the podium finish.
He's definitely been our most consistent driver so far this season, being able to finish in that 3rd spot each and every week. Up to this point, running 4th right now. He's just a very consistent guy. He's able to keep the car underneath him. Oh, we got another caution here, Austin. Looks like might be Mark Herzog that spun.
Yeah, it looked like Mark spun into the outside wall. I believe that's going to end the race, though, under caution. We'll see what the replay is right here. It looks like the number 57 of Mark Herzog kind of just overcorrected there into the outside wall. Looked like he was trying to avoid that number 46 car, our pole sitter today, Fred Thompson.
You see him coming down there.
Yeah, just way too fast.
Yeah, well, he had a head of steam and probably just did not judge the car ahead of him being one of the lap cars, not having nearly as much speed, and did a good job at least avoiding the car in front, but took himself out in the process. But yeah, this may end the race. We'll have to keep an eye out on the pace car's lights to see if they ever go out. Maybe could have a 1-lap shootout, but it's going to be close.
Yeah, if they do, I highly doubt Scott would give anyone a run through turns 3 and 4 there. I feel like he'd just kind of make everyone go until they got about to the Geico restart zone when iRacing started the race, and he might fire just a little bit before that to make sure he still does win this race. But, I think we'd have a 1-lap dash if we had anything.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to have control on that restart, and if you're the leader, you're going to want to do something that you've probably not done all race long, just to keep everybody kind of guessing on when you take off to gain that advantage.
If this race does end under caution, it's been a fantastic one so far. A lot of clean, close racing on our first pretty much short track of the season. Very unfortunate, though, for Mike Rasmus, only going to come home in the 4th position here. So it'll be the first week he hasn't finished in 3rd place.
Yeah, still a very consistent season so far for him, though, Austin. If he can continue to finish in the top 5 each and every week, that could be enough. You may not need to win a race to get this championship. We'll just have to continue to watch and see how things work out, especially with the 2 drop weeks that they get.
Yeah, certainly not, JR. You see these cars still behind the iRacing pace cars. They go by to get the 2 laps to go, signal from Barney the flagman. So I believe we are going to finish this race under caution. So looks like Scott Eckridge is going to be your winner here tonight. Started in the 25th position, and looks like all but one of the drivers in the top 10 started inside the top 10. The only one of those being Isaiah Dupree, started in 2nd, going to finish 9th if they finish how they run.
Guys, and another points contender, Michael Stroll, he will gain 1 point at least by finishing 3rd on Mike Rasmus. So those guys have been very consistent. Again, the top 2 in points, haven't won yet this year, but Eckridge is definitely going to gain a little bit on them. And Eckridge has really shown that he's definitely a title contender. He shows the speed week in and week out, just didn't have all of the finishes that he could have, or as the best finishes that he'd like. But again, it's early in the season, and he's definitely showing with this repeat win here that he's got momentum in his favor.
The cars come by to get the white flag, which of course means this is the last lap of the race. You can see the lights atop the iRacing pace car still illuminated, so this race will end under caution. So Scott Eckridge going to be your winner here tonight. Started in 25th, like we mentioned. Jonathan Cadell having a great run, started 31st, going to finish in 2nd. Michael Stroll started 22nd, finishes in 3rd. You can really see, why these guys wanted the invert. It really forces the cream to rise to the top here each and every time out.
It absolutely does. You're starting to see, now that we're multiple races in, the same names pop up each and every week. Those are the guys that are going to contend for this championship as we move on.
The checkered flag falls on Scott Eckridge, his 2nd win of the season. Of course, the first driver to win 2. He also goes back-to-back here at Phoenix Raceway. Of course, this being the Racy McRace Phoenix 150 presented by Octane 93. We'll go ahead and interview the top 3 finishers here tonight, as well as give you guys the rest of our finishing thoughts here in just a couple moments. Real quick, though, I want to talk about the sponsor of tonight's race, Octane 93, Kevin Bartelt. The driver of the number 26 car is a 33-year-old married cadet who drives semi-trucks for a living. He strives for a fun, relaxed dream environment where all are welcome to chill and relax with the community. He's also an amateur race car driver in real life. As we let Scott Burnham down the backstretch, what used to be the front stretch here at Phoenix Raceway just a couple short years ago. We'll take a quick commercial break and then be right back with your top 3. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you back to the Racy McRace Phoenix 150 presented by Octane 93 on Twitch.tv. We'll run you through your finishing results here from today's affair. Scott Eckridge, of course, winning back-to-back races, the first driver to win twice this first season. You can see Scott wins there. Rounding out the podium, though, is going to be Jonathan Cadell and Michael Stroll in third. Mike Rasmuth, your points leader, finishes in fourth with James Grahula in fifth. Thomas George comes home in sixth with Chad Mikas in seventh. Rich Jetty, Isaiah Dupre, and Michael Krobach round out your top 10. Brian Yazik finishes in 11th place with Jeff Ward in 12th. Drew Carroll comes home in 13th, followed by Michael Whiting in the number 44 car in 14th. Travis McQuistion comes home 15th, followed by Rick Thompson in 16th. Danny Gutierrez comes home in 17th. 18th goes to Adam Littell. 19th went to Jason Franks, the number 70 car, and running out the top 20 was John Wilco.
At 21st tonight is Howard Wildrick. 22nd, Don Runkle Jr. 23rd goes to Pete Baskins. 24th, Norm Pelletier. 25th, Fred Thompson. 26th, Jeff Gilliam. Ricky Harden comes home in 27th, and that is your lead lap cars tonight. Coming home in 28th is Chris Lanini. 29th, Kevin Stone. 30th, Django Matthews. Mark Herzog comes home in 31st. 32nd, Joe Alberico. Kevin Bartelt comes home in 33rd. Joe Hassert, 34th. Mark Cohn, 35th. Woody Mahan, 36th tonight. Tyler Graff, 37th. Steve Herring, 38th. Kyle Filarski comes home in 39th. And our last place finisher for tonight is John Perkins, who will be next week's pole sitter.
Thank you there, JR. We can interview our winner here, Scott Eckridge. Scott, you did a great job today, coming from pretty deep in the field to go ahead and win in back-to-back weeks. Talk me through the race, man.
Yeah, it was. This is one of our better tracks, so we were kind of looking forward to this. It always makes it a little scary when you got to start back in the pack, though. And luckily, we were able to just kind of methodically work our way up. We were doing a good job missing the wrecks. You know, we got a couple of them were pretty close, but we managed to keep the car clean there. And luckily, we had some pretty good speed there. So really, I hate to say it, but like, you know, the last 30 laps, it didn't feel so bad. Would have been interesting, I think, if Jeff Ward wouldn't have got that speeding penalty there, because I could definitely see him coming on my relative.
Well, Scott, 2 weeks in a row you win, but you know that's the most important thing. But also 2 weeks in a row you overcome something that happens in the early part of your race. Last week it was the wreck in the first half. This week, though, it was getting into the back of Brian Yazik down pit road. We did make note of how that sent you to the back of the pack there, especially after you had to get that EOL. But you know, you managed to come back through the field.
Yeah, we managed to pass somebody on the track there to get down pit road, and it gave us a black flag. And I wanted to, you know, make sure we didn't do anything. I actually got speeding that same caution, so we had to clear one and then give the other, so we, you know, weren't doing anything untoward. And then I stopped paying attention and accidentally went a lap down in the process. So yeah, we did get kind of lucky there.
Certainly, before we let you go, Scott, is there anyone you want to thank for your win tonight?
Just all the guys at Graphics LC and the LPM group for everything they do every week for us.
Well, thank you so much. Once again, congratulations, Scott. I think, JR, though, you've caught up with our second place finisher, Jonathan Cadell.
Austin, Jonathan, congratulations, man, on a second place run. You started in 31st. Talk us through those opening laps and how you were able to get yourself up into that second spot.
Opening laps? Yeah. Opening laps, there's wrecks, and then there was more wrecks, and there's a lot of wrecks. And I cold trickled my way right through them, and ended up in the top 10. And there was some more wrecks, and ended up in the top 5. Went down pit road, changed some tires, spun out on pit road, went back to 30th, dodged some more wrecks, and then I'm up there in the top 5 and finished second, man. Pretty much story of my night.
Yeah, you did an awesome job for sure, avoiding the carnage that happened early, and then overcoming some adversity there with a spin on pit road. So congratulations, man. Talk us through this new car. Everybody's still trying to learn it and get accustomed to it at each and every track. Did it drive pretty much how you expected at Phoenix, or was it a little bit different than what you thought you might have?
Well, the tires they wore out pretty dang quick, and as Brian Yazik found out there on one of those restarts, it's pretty loose on cold tires, so it would spin out on you. So you had first couple laps, you had to take it kind of easy, and I think that's why we had so many wrecks. So everyone just sitting in there as hard as they could, and they'd spin out and take out 10 other cars with them. But once we got going, it wasn't too bad. There was a little bit that second to last run, I was overdriving the crap out of it. I didn't get much practice. I literally just got the update downloaded like 5 minutes before the race started here, so I got lucky there. But man, I like Phoenix. It's my best track. Unfortunately, it's Scott's best track too. And he's a lot damn better than I am at iRacing. But I'll take second there. It drove pretty well. Like I said, just got to work on my tire management.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you'll continue to get better at that as we move through the season. You certainly did a great job tonight at one of your favorite tracks. Tell us who you'd like to thank for tonight's run, man.
Well, my main sponsor here, Extreme Sim Racing, save yourself 5% at extremesimracing.com by using promo code StillHorseLive. Speaking of Stillhorse Live, all my 117 people watch right now at twitch.tv/StillHorseLive. Got lots of other people, iRacing, iFlag, Thrustmaster, all those guys. But more importantly, we got to do Natty Light here, and we're going to drink one right now, baby. Hell yeah.
Jonathan, congratulations again on that second place run, man.
Yeah, man, thanks.
That was our second place finisher, Jonathan Condell. I think Kenny's actually caught up with our third place finisher now, Michael Stroll.
Well, sadly, I'm unable to interview our third place driver, Michael Stroll. I guess Michael's feeling under the weather, so he retired for the evening. So a good run for Michael Stroll. He gained a little bit on the point standings. He's in second place right now in the point standings to Mike Razimus. So a good consistent run for him in this in the points so far and in tonight's race. So get better, Michael, and hopefully come back and he can have another strong showing. But Austin, you want to close us out for the night?
Yeah, Kenny, for sure. Just one more plug for the people who pay the bills here. This was the Racy McRace race, Phoenix 150, presented by Octane 93. Kevin Bartelt, driver of the number 26, 33-year-old married cat dad who drives semi-trucks for a living. He strives for a fun and relaxed stream environment where all are welcome to chill and relax with the community. He's also an amateur race car driver in real life. You can find all of his streams at twitch.tv/Octane93. The next PGRL broadcast is next Tuesday, March 15th from the new Atlanta Motor Speedway. If it gets scanned in time, live at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time. The next VGN broadcast is going to be Friday, March 11th, BRL's Dirt Street Stock Series from Limaland Motorsports Park. That goes live at 7:10 p.m. Eastern Time. This has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. I'm Austin Belkey. Alongside me in the booth was J.R. Shepard. Down on pit road, we had Kenny Kibbe, and the man giving us all the great angles in the production trailer was Trevor Greenfield. Thank you for watching. Good night.